Yet let me remind you that in every discussion of the peace during the war,
we promised...
I beg your pardon, you promised.
This government promised.
That some way would be found to avoid such catastrophes as we have just been through. Other nations have accepted the principles of the League. It is inconceivable to me that we who advanced it should go back on our word.
If that is your unalterable view, I'm afraid we shall not get very far.
Just a moment, Senator. Perhaps we've made mistakes. All of us. But regardless of the treaty, or what you individually may think of it, or of those who wrote it, let me remind you that the League is irrevocably attached to it. And the League is the only hope the world has to avoid wars in the future. Unless you can advance a better idea, I beg of you to consider that and to help save that hope.
I too have my ideals, Mr. President, and one of them is peace. But a realistic peace that we can surely maintain. One which will not siphon off the power and prestige and resources of the United States. If you had wanted my views on this matter, you could very easily have obtained them before you went to Paris. Before you made concessions to the statesmen of Europe. Before you burned all your bridges behind you. This is not the age of miracles, Mr. President. Nor of miracle workers.
America has but two choices, gentlemen. It must accept a League of Nations or live with a gun in its hand. It's for the people to decide. Thank you for coming here. Good day.
Good day, sir.
You may start making arrangements at once for our trip.
Governor, your health.
I'll have no more haggling with that man. I'll stump the country and let the people know exactly what's at stake.
But, Governor, you know what Dr. Grayson said. You can't afford to take the risk.
I promised the young men of this country that we were fighting this war to end wars. Now it's up to me to see that we meant what we said.
Woodrow. For my sake, why don't you do as they ask? Accept the Senate reservations and get this awful quarrel settled.
Don't you desert me too, Edith. I couldn't stand.
My dear, I'm only thinking of you, of your health.
I have no right to accept any changes. And even if I did, don't you see, they'd come back tomorrow with 46 more. It's just a scheme to kill the League entirely.
Forgive me. I should have known.
Whatever mistakes we've made about disarmament, boundaries, reparations, or colonies, the League will be in a position to arbitrate and rectify. The League is the vital and compelling part of the treaty. But there can be no united action. No League of Nations in the true sense without America's participation. The isolation of the United States is at an end.
Mr. President, you'll have to give up this trip and return to Washington at once.
That's impossible.
It's not only possible, it's imperative.
But I can't stop now. People are beginning to understand. If I desert them now, they'll be confused and misled.
40 speeches in 17 states in 22 days. No one could stand it.
I'm scheduled to speak here in Pueblo. People are waiting for me. There are several points that still have to be explained.
But you could speak here another time. I wouldn't ask you to stop if I thought there was the slightest chance of your being able to go on. But you'd kill yourself.
I must go on. All right. People of Pueblo, my fellow citizens, I feel like asking the Secretary of War to get the boys who went across the water to fight together on some field where I could go and see them. And I would stand up before them and say, boys, I told you before you went across the seas that this was a war against wars. And I did my best to fulfill that promise. But I am obliged to come to you with mortification and shame and say I have been unable to fulfill that promise. You are betrayed. You fought for something that you did not get. And the glory of the armies and the navies of the United States is gone like a dream in the night. And there ensues upon it, in the suitable darkness of the night, the nightmare of dread which lay upon the nations before this war came. And there will come some time, in the vengeful providence of God, another struggle in which not a few 100,000 fine young men from America will have to die, but as many millions as are necessary to accomplish the final freedom of the peoples of the world. I will... Thank you for coming. So tired.
Mr. Tumulty, will you please tell the newspaper men that we're returning to Washington immediately?